Colin The Head, world of everything. Hello there, and welcome back to Colin The Head's World of Everything. I'm Colin The Head, and what we're going to do today is we've come to look at the Great Ouse Bridge. Now, the Great Ouse Bridge makes it possible for the M62 to traverse the River Ouse here at Yorkshire, and we all go over it on way to East Coast, and we all fly over it at 70 miles an hour, and you don't actually think what you're actually going over. So what we're going to do today on Colin The Head's World of Everything, we're going to take a look at the Great Ouse Bridge here at Howden. Bit of information about the Great Ouse Bridge behind me. It's a girder plate bridge. It's known as a girder plate bridge, meaning it's made out of girders, right? So all these girders are all bolted together in situ, in sections all the way across the bridge. These girder plates are supported by what are called piers. Right, this bridge is propped up with concrete piers. If you can look behind me, you can see the concrete piers, the squares, they're piers. They're supporting the actual weight of the actual motorway on top of the girders. Now, in total, this bridge has got 29 piers. So there's 29 piers from end to end. The actual length of the actual bridge, from one end of the bridge to the other, it's just short of a mile long. All these piers aren't individually spaced. Now, you'd think that all these 29 piers would be all uniform, would be all individually placed from one point to other, all the way wrong. But you're actually wrong. The actual ones you can see behind me that are actually in the River Ouse itself, as you see these big concrete buttresses at the bottom, right? They're actually a wider span. Now, these 4 spans in the middle of the Howden, the actual Great Ouse Bridge, they're the longest spans in the actual bridge, and they obviously cross the River Ouse. This is the River Ouse behind me. The actual height of the bridge itself is 100 feet. Now, this is the highest point of the bridge, right? This is the pinnacle point, the bit that goes over the River Ouse and the estuary. So that's 100 foot, just short of 100 foot. You've got 100 foot drop straight down into River Ouse. So they started building the Ouse Bridge in 1973. It was actually completed in 1976. So it took 3 years to build this colossal structure behind me here at Howden, and thousands of motorists use it every day. And without this bridge, the only other way of getting across the actual Ouse estuary was Boothferry Bridge, which is behind me, which we're going to feature later on in this actual physical episode. It's the last piece of actual infrastructure, main infrastructure. I said main infrastructure because there were obviously infrastructure built after this point as the M62 moved towards Hull, but the actual main piece of motorway infrastructure is the last piece, because what it is in this part of the world is it's very flat. What you'll find about this part of the world is very flat and there's no hills. So when they come to build M62, they didn't have a lot of stuff to actually go over, only the Ouse estuary. Now, can I also add, the actual Ouse estuary at this point is actually tidal. It's a tidal estuary. So obviously the water levels rise up and down, and you do get a lot of craft going up underneath this bridge. Hence why these big concrete embankment stanchions, buttresses, have been installed. You know, it's something you'd really find out to see. We're quite a few miles inland, but we are actually still on a tidal estuary, as you can see. You can still see the sandbanks, and you can see where the water line's been. It's wet sand, for instance, so that indicates to me the tide has been higher today. And another thing that indicates to me is most of the water is running out, so that means tide must be going out at the moment. But this is tidal. The actual water level does rise and does fall underneath the Great Ouse Bridge. So we're just stood underneath the actual Ouse Bridge itself, this girder plated bridge. Now, we're just stood in one of the larger spans, obviously from that pier to the pier behind me. That's 292 feet. That's the span of 292 feet. And if you look beyond this box section, there's another box section, but can take note, the further box section, the span's nowhere near as big. It's actually smaller. So this is the first part of the 4-section span of the actual bridge itself. So these were spaced out more. They were spaced out more solely for the purpose of spanning the Great Ouse. At this point here above me, this is at the peak of the actual bridge as well. So it's 100 feet. You can hear motorway just rumbling above his heads. And look at all supports and all structure and all struts that have been put in to support all these girder bridges. And it basically consists the actual bridge itself, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 8 girders in width. So there's eight span girders that are laid across the actual piers. So you've got 8 girders that run all the way over the bridge. The motorway sits on top. It's supported by 29 piers. They explain the actual girder plated bit. The actual bit that we say it's a girder plated bridge. Every girder has to be plated together and obviously bolted together. And what they did, they used plates basically, big plates to fix each girder together. And every girder's got on every join has got 2 plates on the top and 2 plates on the bottom to fix the actual girders together. Look at it! Look how big it is! You know, it's piers, it's girders, it's expansion joint plates, bankings and spans. You know, but look how big it is and how much engineering went into building the Great Ouse Bridge. I'm Colin The Head and this is Colin The Head's world of everything. If you want to come out and have a day out at Howden Bridge, if you really want to come out and have a day out at Howden Bridge, there's actually quite ample space for you to have a picnic, barbecue, a couple of beers or whatever you do. Just outside of the River Ouse here, so there's plenty of things to see and do, sights to see, plenty of views to take in. Right, coming up next in the show, we're not going to be travelling very far from this point. And what we're going to do next in the show, we're going to take a look at the Boothferry Swing Bridge. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a quick walk up Ouse Estuary, sorry, and we're going to take a look at this swing bridge. I'm Colin The Head, and this is Colin The Head's world of everything. Colin The Head's world of everything. Right, so behind me, we've got what is called the Boothferry Swing Bridge. Now the Boothferry Swing Bridge was here before the Ouse Bridge on the M62. So before the actual construction of the M62 motorway and the Great Ouse Bridge here at Howden, the Boothferry Swing Bridge was the first inland crossing of the River Ouse before, as it come from the Humber Estuary. So this was the first actual road crossing, the only way you could get across the River Ouse from the Humber Estuary. So this swing bridge behind me was a vital crossing and it was very heavily used before the construction of the M62. Basically it's constructed of iron and it's built in sections, as you can see. It's a girder bridge. That's exactly what it is. It's a girder bridge. It's a girder bridge and it's built in 3 separate sections. Now one of these sections does swing out of the way for high vessels with tall masts such as boats and things. If boats need to get under this bridge, obviously it's a pretty low bridge. It's a pretty low bridge and it's low in actual height, right? So if a big vessel wants to go up the actual River Ouse towards the city of York, for instance, and it's got a really high mast when the tide's actually in, obviously the mast's going to be too high to go underneath this bridge, so the bridge actually swings out of the way. So it actually swings open and closed. So let's take a quick look at the Boothferry Swing Bridge here at Howden. So we're just here outside at Boothferry Swing Bridge and we've just found this little derelict hut, right? This derelict hut, as you can see behind me. The derelict hut. Whoa, what is it? There it is, definitely. It's an old, basically it's the old control station for the Boothferry Swing Bridge. When they constructed the new control tower, this was the actual control station. So the swing bridge would have been operated from this actual hut. Now obviously things have moved on here at Boothferry. Times have moved on, things have changed. And this has become derelict and disused. So this is the disused control hut for the Boothferry Swing Bridge. As you can see, we've got a control tower which is situated on top of the actual swing bridge itself. That is the new control tower. Obviously we've featured the old control tower. Now we've got the new control tower on top of the actual swing bridge itself. Now in that control tower there'll obviously be in control of all the traffic that's going up and down the Ouse Estuary, all the different craft and vessels which use the actual Ouse Estuary every day. Obviously it'll be incorporated with all the traffic information, tuned into all the marine activity that's going off in the actual area, and obviously we'll be monitoring tide levels, high tide, and obviously you know the general condition and the actual activity which is actually going off in the Ouse Estuary from day to day. So really that control tower is doing a very important job. It's like an iron sky really on the top of Boothferry. all the customers that use the Boothferry Bridge from day to day rely on that control tower to get them across the Ouse safely and in one piece. The old one behind me, this is the old control station. So you can see how things have come on. It's come from a little signal box affair, because that's how I'm going to explain it as. A signal box affair hut to an ultra modern day facility situated on top of a girder bridge here at Boothferry. As you can see, they've got technical control measures situated at the front of the bridge, so when they come to actually open the bridge, obviously the barriers will go down, the klaxons will start sounding, and the traffic will come to a halt. So we're at the barriers at the moment. We're actually at the barriers of the swing bridge where the barriers are actually closed. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the actual bridge itself. This is the first section behind me, as you can see. This bridge. This is the first section. So this is where the bridge actually physically starts. So obviously the run up to the bridge, what we've already walked on, we're not actually physically on the bridge until you actually get on the bridge. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get on the bridge. Okay, so if you wanted to go a long way and get off at River Ouse here at Howden, you'd use M62 at Great Ouse Bridge, wouldn't you? But you know, if you just like nip into Rawcliffe from Howden, you would use the Boothferry Bridge. And most of these people that are using this bridge right now are all local people. They're all local people going about local lives, doing normal local things. So these are just local people using their local girder swing bridge here at Boothferry. So the actual bridge itself is painted blue, right, as you already noticed. It's painted blue and it's riveted girder sections. All these sections are double riveted. Obviously they're plated again. We noticed again we've got plates on the top of girders which make the girders a lot stronger and support more weight. That's what it's all about. It's got to be able to support itself. The bridge has to be able to support itself under its own weight and under laden weight. So this is how we do it. We do it with plates and girders and riveted steel. And these rivets run all the way through the bridge and all the way through the box sections. And there's thousands of them. There's thousands of rivets and plates that hold this bridge together. This local bridge. Now this is the bit where it starts to swing. If you pay attention to the course actually changes. Changes to wood. So obviously it goes from concrete to wood. So this is the actual physical part of the actual bridge that will actually swing out of the way. So it swings to an anti-clockwise direction. So obviously the wood panels on the floor is actually the bit that actually will swing out of the way. And yeah, again, it's got its own individual box section built in girders. So obviously where the join is, obviously you've got its own section, and you've got the control tower on the top of the actual swinging section. So the whole control tower on top of this bridge rotates with bridge as well. So the actual person in the actual bridge will actually spin round with bridge. So if you're controlling this bridge, you'll actually move with it. So quite impressive really. Quite interesting as well. Part that swings is actually freestanding away from the actual rest of the structure of the bridge. That stands on its own, right? But the actual other two sections are actually fixed in situ and don't move. So really, in a sense, this swing bridge is actually two bridges together. It's a bridge that's fixed, and it's also a swing bridge in its own separate section. Yeah, so basically it's just a turntable. Just a turntable, a big turntable over at River Ouse. That's all it is, but it's the Boothferry Swing Bridge. Colin The Head world of everything. We've come to Goole, right? Now, the reason why we've come to Goole, right, on this actual episode is because we're on this sort of like bridgey, estuary, transporty sort of theme today, and we're actually in this part of the world. Well, so we were just down the road from Goole, so we thought we'd pop into Goole. We've come to Goole Docks, and we've come to the old docks. Now, before Hull stole the throne of being the northeast premier dock, which is Hull. We all know about Hull Docks. We all get on P&O ferries and we all go to Amsterdam, right, from Hull Docks. Before that come along, Goole Docks is where it all used to happen, this hub. And what it is about Goole Docks, it's got very good access to canal system, and most of the inland waterways would have terminated at Goole, right? So obviously the rivers turns into estuaries, and obviously canals follow rivers, and when we get to Goole, the rivers start to become tidal. So the canals haven't got the natural support of a river at the side of them. So what generally used to happen when they were building the actual canal network is a lot of the actual canals terminated at Goole. Hence the word Goole Docks. Boats used to come from the sea and come inland to Goole, and then the goods used to get took off the seafaring boats and put onto inland boats. And then what used to happen then, either through the use of canals, road or rail, used to get shipped inland. So that's why Goole was so important, because the simple fact is the canals, up until the invention of the railway and the fact to be able to transport bulk items to the actual coast, the only way you were going to transport anything, if you had a lot of it, i.e. coal or wood or whatever, any bulk items, if you wanted to transport it back in the 1800s, for instance, you'd do it pre-railway area, you'd do it by canal, right? So Goole were particularly important in the north of England, right? Goole were massively important because the simple fact is where the canals met the seafaring boat. So Goole is actually the old Goole Docks were quite particularly important. So what we're going to do now and call Colin The Head's World of Everything is we're going to take a walk around Goole Docks, and we're going to have a look at this estuary inland waterway interface that is Goole Docks. Now over there we've got a nice tidal estuary. Now to over here, if you just follow me over here, obviously it's empty and it's draining. Just over here we've got the canal system. And notice how full it is compared to the actual estuary itself. And obviously it's an inland waterway, and it will stay at that level all the time. It won't rise and fall. It's not tidal, and at the moment it's derelict. It's the old Goole Docks, but that is the inland canal system, and that was the niche of the Goole Docks. The fact that the canal system and the sea-going craft could come together and goods could be transferred from one vessel to another vessel and then to its destination. Hence the importance of Goole Docks. So if you take a look behind me, we've got what is a derelict dock at side an estuary, and the reason why Goole Docks has become so derelict is because the rise of the actual nearby Hull Alexandra docks, and obviously the inland and the decline in the need for the use of the canal system, and obviously the upcoming road system, which has left Goole Docks in a serious state of disrepair, as we can see behind me. It's in a serious state of disrepair, and you know, the need for these docks anymore isn't really much used. I mean, if I look around me, there's a lot of disused derelict warehouses and derelict infrastructure. Really, the place is quite derelict and depressing, if you want to know the truth. But it's all because of the upcoming nearby Alexandra docks and better road transport connections. So really, to be fair, remember we're in the old Goole Docks here. These are the old docks. We're not in the new docks, we're in the old docks. So the old docks is quite an old derelict place to come. I mean, in its heyday, I mean, this has been a really busy dock. I mean, there's been boats pulling up and people working here, and there's been a hive of activity, a hive of thriving activity, industrial environment. But now today you come and it's just derelict. You know, we've got empty quays, empty docks, no boats here. Plenty of waterways and infrastructure that's left behind, but we've got no actual physical activity. I mean, if we just take a look at some of these buildings that are outside of these here docks, you know, they're in a dismal this state of repair. You know, and it's just a derelict sort of environment. There's not much happening at Goole Docks anymore. Not much at all. Right, so we've come to Cold Air Terminal here in Goole. Now, the Cold Air Terminal is literally where the Cold Heavy Navigation system, inland waterway system, terminates at Goole, and that's where it terminates. So this is where we are at present. We're at the Cold Air Terminal, and the reason why it's called that is because the River Calder and the River Air and the Calder Heavy Navigation, Air Calder Navigation as we know it in our area, actually terminated here at Goole Docks. So in this part of the world, swing bridges are actually quite common. As you can see behind me, we've got a swing bridge here. So in Goole, swing bridges are actually incorporated into the main road infrastructure. So we've got another really good example here of another swing bridge along with the actual Boothferry Bridge. So we've got two swing bridges in the area, and I think there's one in that direction as well. There's another swing bridge that we need to take a look at later on, just over that wall. So swing bridges actually do play part in the actual Goole's quite actual road infrastructure. And here we have another example of one. Right, so as you can see, we're here at Goole on this bridge at this dock, and we've got a vessel versing behind us. Obviously I don't know what the vessel's actually doing, but it's using the inland waterway system at the moment. We're over the inland waterway system, and this is the terminus of the actual canal system which fed along the country all the way from up the Pennines, through Wakefield, through Boothferry Bridge, through Whitley, past Egbert-Drax, and obviously terminated at Goole. And we've got a pleasure craft here today just passing underneath us as we speak. You see a pleasure craft full of people using the Goole Docks as we speak. So there they go, on the merry way. The whole industry in this area has been replaced, right? There's no industry left, right? Obviously with the coal there terminal, and obviously the main stock that would have gone through the coal air terminal would have been coal for the coal-fired power stations such as Egbert-Drax. But obviously because we don't transport coal on barges no more, and we don't have the need to transport that bulk items, the docks have become redundant. And mainly today the coal air terminal is the home of the Waterway Museum, so it's been replaced by tourism. So the main people that really visit the cold air terminal here at Goole Old Docks are tourists, and they solely come for the sole purpose to come to the Waterway Museum. So the industry has been replaced by tourism, and that's the main industry here at the cold air terminal here down at Goole. Colin The Head world of everything. Right, so what we've decided to do on the show is come to this level crossing here at Askern of the next edition of Colin The Head world of everything. So, level crossings, we've come to this level crossing here in Askern, and what we've done, we've come to see this important safety feature in action. As you can see, this level crossing here at Askern is being used by all these motorists. Now obviously the level crossings are fully automated nowadays, and they're used by thousands and thousands and thousands of motorists every day. But if it weren't for these level crossings, obviously level crossings, due to the nature of the fact is roads cross over railways, right? It's the simple fact is that they've got to be safe, and the systems that are actually used have got to be reliable, because obviously this is what's known as an unmanned level crossing. And it's actually called Moss level crossing. We've come to Moss level crossing here at, in Moss. So this is Moss level crossing, and it's this particular railway, this particular level crossing has got an 125-mile-an-hour speed limit on the actual line. The actual systems and barriers have got to be in place on the actual level crossing. They've got to be of some sort of a high standard. Here we go. Here we go for the next train. So what's happening now is the first barriers are actually closing. There'll be a pause. Now you can see how that barrier's paused and that barrier's paused, and the second barriers will fall down. That's so if anything decides to swerve through the barriers, it can get out of the way. The level crossing is now locked. Now we're waiting for a train. Now there'll be a big delay. Now I don't know which way train's actually coming from. Obviously we've got more motorists waiting. It's coming from York direction. So next train due that's coming down south. Now, being nature at the East Coast Main Line, you get a lot of traffic on this section of line here in Yorkshire, because obviously it's an electrified piece of it's the East Coast Main Line. It goes from London right up to Edinburgh. The main traffic on this particular line is mainly high-speed passenger traffic, and it's a particularly busy section of line. We're just north of Doncaster here at the moment, which is the main hub in Yorkshire. With it being a Saturday, you'll be expected to get quite a lot of traffic. So how does it all work? How does this actual level crossing actually work, and how does it know to shut the barriers down? So about 2 miles up the track there'll be a pressure sensor, for instance, or there'll be a sensor of some sort to register an actual train for this particular level crossing. Now what will actually happen is as the train goes over this here pressure sensor, it'll trigger the actual barriers for the actual level crossing to actually activate. So there's plenty of delay, and there's a safe distance of time in front of the train for traffic to stop. Or in the worst case scenario, get a warning to train to start stopping if there's something in middle at crossing. Here we go, you can see it now, you can see it train. So obviously 2 mile ago, train will have gone over a centre and it'll have activated this here level crossing. Now the crossing itself is actually locked down and ready to go. So now what we're doing, we're just waiting now for the train to actually approach. And it looks to me, it's a freight train. This, it looks like a 60 or something that's coming down. Dare say it's a class 60 this. It looks like a 60. No, it's not, it's an HST class 43, sorry, I got it wrong. It's an HST class 43 diesel traction. So this is probably a Virgin, it looks like. Anyway, forget the train, mate, forget the train. More about the crossing. So it's doing an important safety feature. It's stopping you getting hit by something like this. Particular train will have been slowing down for Doncaster, so that probably won't have been going at full speed, but I dare say trains that are coming out over this crossing, they're going north, will still be accelerating out of Doncaster. There's not many stations on this particular section of line. It's a really fast section of line. It's notoriously known for a fast section of line. It's East Coast Main Line. Now if the barriers stay down like they have now, see, barriers are still down. They stayed down, barriers are still down. If they don't instantaneously lift up after the train's gone through, then that usually means that there's a train coming in either in the same direction or that the crossing is going to be used again. Basically, the activation switch has been activated again by another train. And I dare say this is a northbounder. In fact, it is a northbounder, and it's here now. It's coming north. Are we lifting? There we go. So that's level crossings for you. I do believe there's actually what's called a manned level crossing. Now manned level crossings are a little bit different because we don't have automatic barriers controlling them. They're actually physically manned level crossings with somebody who's manning them. Now it might still be a manned level crossing, but it might not be. Last time I went, it was a manned level crossing. So what we're going to do next on the show is we're going to take a look at this manned level crossing to show you the differences and the heightened in danger. Right, so we thought we were going to come to a manned level crossing here at Thorpe in Blaine. But we've discovered that the manned level crossing has actually gone. It's gone now. They've got rid of manned level crossing and they've replaced it with that bridge. So if you look, they've replaced it with bridge. And they built a bridge instead of O-level crossing used to be to my left over here where them porter cabins are. There used to be a little level crossing there, and that used to be a manned level crossing. And it's gone now. It's been barricaded off, and that's that. But and also they built this bridge, but even more strangely, we don't know what this bridge is for. This has suddenly appeared here as well. Big massive green bridge. We don't know where it's going or where it's come from. It's completely off my knowledge at Rail Network, and I don't know where it's come from, but I know it hasn't been here for the last 12 months, and I've come back and this big green steel structure's been built here, and I don't know what it's for. I ain't got a clue. I don't even know what it's for. Completely new infrastructure to me in my local area. But I'll tell you what, I will find out. I will definitely find out what this bridge is for. It appears to be brand spanking new. A brand spanking railway line's been built in Thorpe in Blaine. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Colin The Head's World of Everything. I'm Colin The Head, and this is Colin The Head's World of Everything. Bye.